G'day everybody, welcome to the sixth part of our text-based game. I'm Nick Dingle. I'm going to take you through actually making the game functionality today. However, before we do that, I want to do a quick little fix that I did before, because the last video in part 5, I was rushing my head off, and I got my wests and easts around the wrong way. So I fixed that one up. That said east before, that said west. Just swap them around and you are good to go. Alright, because left is actually west and right is actually east, not the other way around, you knob. Before we actually get into game and start adding any code to him or closing him for some reason, anyway, let me open him back up. Alright, what I want to do is I want to attack module 1, because right now, every single time we start the game, we're going to start the editor. What I want to do is we're going to introduce what's called a command line argument. And a command line argument allows you to basically start the game up and tell the program if you want to start the game or start the editor. By default, it's going to start the game. If you add a command line argument, it's going to start the editor. Now, to do this in code, what we do is a little quick if statement. So if command, double M, you idiot, to upper equals editor, then we'll start the editor, just like that. Okay? The else condition will start the game. So unless they type in exactly editor, it's going to start the game. Now, obviously, I'm going to fix that up later. But how do we actually control the command line arguments? Well, command line arguments come from the target line in a program's shortcut. That might not make any sense, but at the end of the video, I'm going to show you exactly how to toggle between the editor and the game. But let's quickly go up to our Solution Explorer, and we are going to manually set the command for our debug project, okay? So this will work while we're programming. As soon as we create an exe file, this won't work, and the thing at the end of the video will help you. If we go to debug, here's our command line arguments. The first one is editor, and you can actually specify more, but that's going to be enough to start up the editor of the game. If it's blank, then it's just going to start the game itself. So I'm actually going to leave this blank, because I want to start the game instead. So save. If you want to start the editor and try it out, put it there, and that's how you control it through your debugging of the program. So now I quickly want to go to the editor. I quickly want to go down to the bottom, and I quickly want to put in start game. Load level, I need to bring him in as well. So, why not programmed load level? Oh my god! I feel like an absolute knob. Alright, so we need to program that bad boy very, very soon. But for the moment, let's get start game working, and let's go over to the game. Let's jam in him here, and let's go start game. And this is just going to be a nice little message to say welcome and get them into it. So clear the console, right line, and we do the clear because we might be coming from the editor. Welcome to the most epic text-based game that you've ever seen. Seen? Alright. Empty line. And then let's go time to start. Time to start. Make them read line. And then we load level. Okay, so our load level in here, and I'm pretty sure we might be able to apply this to the editor as well. I feel so dumb forgetting to do that. It's going to display a list of the levels that we have. They're going to select the level, and then it's just going to start playing. Now, later on, you might want to include some functionality that's going to be able to, let's say, start the first level of the game, and then as they play along, they complete the first level and automatically goes to the second. But for the purposes of this video, we are just going to ask them which level they would like to play. So, wow. Oh my god. Choose a level. Okay. So what we have to do now is we have to go through and find out every single level that we've saved to our game. So the way we do that is we're going to search for all the files that end in, so all the files that end in .lvl. That's an apostrophe, not a dot. Okay. So the way we do that is we use a good old thing called Enumerate Files. So I'm going to quickly dim files as what's called an enumerable of string. Okay, that might look really weird, but just imagine enumerable as an array that you can only access each one at a time. Bad analogy, but it's just a quick analogy. And the way we get all the files is IO directory enumerate files. Alright, and it wants two things. Well, it usually wants two things. it wants path and a search pattern. So the search pattern is all the files that end in .lvl, and the path is our games folder. And the way we get the games folder through a console program is system, app domain, this is really long-winded unfortunately, current domain, .base directory, and that's it. That'll get us the folder your executable file or your program started up in, and then we need to go .lvl on the end. Okay, let me scroll across. Pause the video if you need to. Write that up. That's files enumerable, and that's going to collect every file inside this folder that ends in .lvl. I'm an idiot. *.lvl. That's going to get every file, and then we move on to list every single file to the screen and ask them, what do you want? So check we have some files first, because they might have no files in the folder. If files count is greater than 0, then let's do some stuff. So display the files for I equals 0 to files dot count -1. Do a right line. Couple of tabs. Put the index because they're going to select it by the number, and then you go let's put a space there like that. io.path.getFilename, and this is really long-winded without extension, files I. And that's all the brackets. Alright, the reason I did this part is because I want the file's name. I don't want the entire path of C drive users, Nicholas, desktop, whatever like that. I just want the file's name, which comes from here, printed on the screen. When they select the index, we'll then use just the file and the index that it's selected. So let's get the index from the user. So you go console write, enter the number of the file you wish to open, dim the index as an integer, and readline that bugger. And then finally, we've got the file they want. Let's just check it's a good number and then load the file. So load the file, and this is actually very easy. If the index is greater than or equal to 0, and the index is less than or equal to the count -1, because remember, it's got to be within those two numbers, then let's load the level. So we need to, first of all, before we can do that, I've done this again, up the top, we need to dim level. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so let's dim level as a level. Okay, and then finally, let's dim running as boolean. He equals true. So we've done them before in the editor. We're going to use them again in the game because they're so easy to use. All right. So once you got that, we're going to finally key up this bad boy. So let's go level. LVL is my level. Gosh. Level equals level.load. And they want the file name is files index. And that's the file they've selected. And it's going to throw it into our level class, and it's going to load it into our current level. And then we need to make the player. So let's go the player's max health. That's not player position. Player max health equals 100. Player dot min damage equals 5. Player dot max damage equals 20. And that's it. And then we need to start up the game. All right, and that's all. The biggest problem is we're not going to have a nice message that says, no levels found. I'm sure you can try and manage that. Let's start up the game screen. So this is going to be the main screen that the entire game runs inside of. And we're going to put this above load level. So pause the video if you need to type it up, because I'm going to scroll up right now. Let's go sub game screen. This guy is going to be pretty darn important. This game screen is going to do all of the work when it comes to accepting their commands, checking what command they've put in, and then calling the other subs in the game. So it's basically like our main screen. Alright, so with that in mind, let's quickly start typing this up. Dim refresh as boolean. I'll quickly explain what this guy does in a moment. We're going to clear the console just here, and while we're running, do stuff. Alright, this refresh is whether or not we want to refresh the screen every time they enter a command. So if they type in north, we obviously want to refresh the screen because they're in a new room. If they type in east and they don't go anywhere, we're not going to refresh the screen again because they didn't go anywhere. Alright, we're just going to tell them you can't move that way. So I hope that makes sense. We're just going to refresh it sometimes and not the others. So first of all, do we show the room? So that's all based on refresh. So if we need a refresh equals true, then let's display the current room. Alright, which is simply level display current room. That's it. Alright, and then because we've displayed the room, well, no, we've displayed the room. Let's ask them what they want to do. So ask the next command. So console.write, now what? And then let's go dim command as a string equals a read line. And I like to do two of these things. This command is whatever they've typed in on the keyboard. I'm then going to have another variable called command upper, which is the command they just typed in, but in uppercase. And the reason I do that separately is because I'm going to check command upper lots and lots and lots and lots in this big if statement I'm about to write. And sometimes we need the original command as well. So it's just quicker if we only call to upper once. And what I mean by that is if I was going to use to upper in the if statement, I'd have to use it about 10 times, whereas I'm just using it once just here. And it's a little bit more efficient. Okay, what was the command? Let's check what they typed in. If the command upper equals north, okay, or they want to move north, so command upper equals move north. Can you guess what you're going to do? Well, you're going to move north. However, we've got to write a function for this bad boy. So let's scroll up. Okay, I hope you got this. Pause the video if you need to, because I'm going to go off the screen. And we're going to make a function called move, and it's going to accept a direction they want to move in. And it's going to return a boolean. Now, what this function is going to do is it's going to try and move in this set direction. If you can't move, then it's going to return a false. So they did not move. All right. Otherwise, it's going to return true and tell them, yes, you did move. All right. And it's also going to display on the screen, you know, if that way is blocked, then it's just going to say you can't move in that direction. So let's quickly go check if we can move. So if the level move player, and this is so easy, direction equals false, they didn't move. So if the move player function returns a false, then we didn't go anywhere. So nope, tell the user. Let's put a comma there. Good English. So let's write line, you cannot move in that direction. Done. Let's return false, because that's what happened. And if we get to this point, yep, we moved, ref. Return true. So right here, we couldn't move. Right here, we can move. So write down, okay, sorry, I hope you got that. Pause the video if you still need to type that up. But come on down with me and let's have a look at this guy right here. We're going to go refresh equals move. What direction do we want to move? That's north. And that's it. That's all we're going to do. And we're going to do the exact same thing for south, east, and west. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to type those up. When we come back, I'm going to have it done, and so will you. All right, see you in a second. Hey everybody, I've got my south, east, west done. I've actually got them correct this time. Hopefully you've got yours done. And we're going to move on to the next command, which is going to be looking at items. So I'm just going to put a comment here, looking at items, and we're going to put it here. That's actually probably a bad spot for it because it's going to keep indenting. So let's do an else if command upper. This one's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to say they start with, and we're going to allow the user to type in look at a certain item. We're going to allow them to pick that item up. So first of all, let's do the look at. So if the command starts with look at, just like so, then we're going to have something after look at, which is going to be considered an item. So what we're going to do is we're going to write another sub up the top, which is a look at sub. So let's scroll on up. This is just going to be a sub this time, sub look at, and it's going to accept an item string, which is whatever they typed in. And now what we're going to do, this is the tricky part, we're going to go through the entire room's inventory and check if that item exists. If the item exists, then we print the message that is attached to the item. Alright, so let's go check if the current room has the item we are looking for. So let's go for each item as an item reference, because remember the item references in the room. In the levels current room items, this is going to repeat all the way through every single item. Now here is the tricky part. Item reference does not contain the name. So once again, we need to use the levels get item to check the name. So check the item's name against the command. Alright, so if the level get item, okay, this is the tricky part, item string, item, dot name equals, and then we've got to go, dot name dot to upper, because we're trying to negate any issues we're going to have, equals the item string to upper, then we found it. Okay, so if the item in the level that we've found, all uppercase, equals the item they typed in, all uppercase, we found the item, so let's print it to the screen. So let's console write line. So we're not printing the item to the screen, this is the tricky part. So item, we are printing the look at message. And that's where this guy comes from. And then let's exit the sub because we're done. Alright. If we ever get to this point here, we didn't find it. That's all. So let's print to the screen. I can't see a, and then put the item string that they typed in. So if they type in look at lamp and there's no lamp, it'll say I can't see a lamp. If it does have a lamp, then it's going to print the message from the level editor that we said is the look at. So pause this because this is done and you need to type it up. I need to go back down to game screen with you, and we need to put in a little bit of code just here, which is look at, which is a sub, and the item string. So here is the tricky part. We only want anything that precedes look at. Okay? So what we're going to do, I should put a space here as well. We're expecting a space. We are going to put the original command variable, substring, and we only want from the 8th character. What I mean by that is because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We want to start just there. Alright. Anything after that is going to hopefully be the item's name. So substring 8. How long do we want? Here's the tricky part, because the item names may vary. We can't predict how long the item name is going to be. So what I'm going to do is put command.length -8. Alright, so we're looking at everything that comes after the word look at. I hope that makes sense. So, and underneath, I'm just going to put refresh equals false, and that way it's not going to refresh the level screen, and it's just going to show the items instead. Give that a go, test them out if you've got a level going. I'm just going to quickly pause the video, and I'll come back in a second. Hey everybody, welcome back. So, believe it or not, we're almost close to done. We've only got picking up items, fighting, and the inventory to go. Oh, and quitting, of course. So, let's get straight into the next one, which is going to be... we're starting with... Oh my god, my brain just died for a second there. Okay, we are doing the pickup command now, exact same way that we did the look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these two lines here, and the only thing I'm going to change is the look at, and we're going to do just a pickup. Alright, and let's scroll up to the top when you're ready. And let's do, breaking the code, sub, pickup, item string, has a string. Are you seeing some similarities here, everybody? So this is going to be extremely similar. So when you go to pick up an item, it's going to get the string that they've typed in, compare it against all the items in the current room. If it exists, you add it to the player's inventory. If it doesn't exist, you tell them they're idiots. Now don't forget, once we add it to the player's inventory, we've also got to remove it from the level. Alright, so we're not going to do a for each anymore because we need to know the index of the item. So we're going to use just a regular for loop for this one. So firstly, let's check if the current room has what we're looking for, but in a regular for loop kind of way. So if the level's current room items count -1, and we're going to loop through this bad boy. And so follow me, dim item as an item equals the level get item, and then we go, here's the annoying part, level current room items I. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the current item in the level. I hope that makes some sense. So we're going through all the items in the room, and we're just simply grabbing the information for that item each time. So if the item's named to upper, because we're always going to do to upper. Okay, so to upper, so if the item name equals item string to upper, just like we did in the last function, then what they've typed in is in the level, and we can pick it up. So pick up the item just here. First of all, let's tell them they did. Let's go, you picked up, and then the item string after it. Okay, and then let's add it to their inventory. So the level dot player dot items add, and we add in the item that they have. Now, bear in mind, this is an item reference, so it's coming from the current room. So level current room items just like so. Okay, so it's literally taking the item reference from the room and placing it on the player. And then we need to take it from the room. So level current room items, remove at, and then just put I in those brackets. Let's exit the sub because we're done. That's how you grab an item, you get rid of the item, and we exit the sub. It's added to the player's inventory, and it's good to go. So, other than that, I forgot one little thing. I'm just assuming they can pick up the items. Some items we can't pick up. Check if they can pick up the item. So if item dot can pick up equals true, then we pick up the item. Else, tell them they can't pick up the item. So you can't pick up, and then the item string. Alright, I hope that makes sense. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Let's exit the sub at that point. Lots of less read lines in this one than there is in the editor, but that's good. Underneath the next, let's console write line. I can't see, because this is the point. Like if they jump out of the for loop, they haven't found the item, and that's it. Okay, so pick up the item, can't pick up the item, haven't found the item. Done. Alright, if you need time to type that up, please do so, because I'm going to come back down, and we're going to get cranking on with our commands. So, the next command that we're going to have a look at is fighting. This is probably the most interesting one, but let's get into it. So, command upper equals fight. What I'm going to do, we're going to do a really basic fight engine where it is, when you fight, you simply fight the first enemy in the room, and then you kill them, you come back, and then you get the chance to fight the next enemy. There's no AI, there's no real chance for enemies to chase after you or anything like that. This is a really basic game. So this is all we're going to do. We're going to scroll at the top, we're going to hit up this, I did it again, have a sub fight, and this is where we're going to do our work. So this is going to be a little bit of work for the next sub. This one's going to be easy. Check if there are enemies first. So if the current room enemies count is greater than 0, then we have enemies. So let's fight one. And this is going to be the tough part, because we need a function up here, and this is the biggest one that we're going to do in this one, which is fight enemy, which takes an enemy as an enemy reference. Oh, humanoid reference. What am I doing? I always do that. And the return value is going to be a boolean, whether or not they beat the enemy. So if we return a true, they killed the enemy. If we return a false, they died. So let's go. If fight enemy, pass them the first enemy in the room. And to do that, we just go enemies 0. Alright. Whoop, not level enemies, current room enemies. Okay. Then delete the enemy, because they killed them at that point. So what I'm talking about, that probably didn't make much sense, because I've skipped over it. If we have any enemies in the room, I'm going to fight the first enemy. This is the first enemy inside of our current room. If it equals true, they've killed the enemy, so let's delete them from the room. Remove at 0. Alright, and then they can choose to fight them again if they really feel like it. And that just goes on and on and on and on together. Now, if there are no enemies, let's just give them a message, tell them that they're being silly. Console write line. There are no enemies to fight. That's it. Alright, now, tough one. Let's get into this fight enemy up here. First thing we need to do is actually get the enemy information, because this enemy humanoid reference only has how many there are, the current health. So we actually need the damage and all the other stuff. And that comes from the levels enemies. So let's dim an enemy as a humanoid. And let's get enemy from the reference. Let's just call this enemy reference. Alright, I was being a bit silly there because I was calling the humanoid enemy and the reference enemy. So grab the enemy information. Alright, once we've got the information, let's fight. So the variables that we're going to need are fighting, because it's going to be looping. The next one we're going to need is a random interface, so we can randomize the damages and all that stuff. And then we need the player damage as a single, and we need the enemy damage as a single. Alright, and then let's quickly right line to tell them that they're fighting. You are fighting. Fighting. And then we'll have the count, so enemy reference dot count, and let's just put the name after a space. Enemy name. Okay, so you are fighting 5, and then the enemy name. I suppose you could put like an S after the name or something like that, which is going to look weird if you ever have one of them. But anyway, let's just quickly go on to the next bit and tell them how much health that they actually have. So level player dot name has level player dot max health. There we go. Now let's do the same thing for the enemy. So enemy dot name has enemy dot max health. So this is going to be the part where tell them how much health we all have. Hooray! And then we start fighting. So after all that, and the way this is going to go, so the first thing we're going to do is randomize the damage from everybody, so the player and the enemy. We are then going to tell them how much we've attacked for, and then check if anyone has died. And that's going to be the whole function. And if the enemy dies, we're going to return true. If the player dies, we stop the game, and we effectively just stop the game. All right. In another one, you might kill the player and then respawn them back at the start, things like that. But for the moment, let's put a blank space and randomize the damage. Random damage for all. So player damage equals random.next, and then all we're going to specify is the min damage and the max damage. That's all we do. So level player, not current room, min damage, level player, max damage, and then we'll do the same thing for the enemy. So copy and paste. Let's get rid of this and call it enemy. And this guy's gonna all this is gonna be enemy. That's gonna be enemy. But we're not taking into consideration at this point how many there are. So let's go. The enemy's damage is the random damage times how many enemies there are. So if there's 5 of them, they're going to hit 5 times as hard. Okay, that's probably a really cheap way of doing it. But anyway, let's tell them how much they got hurt for. So the player, what am I doing? Level player dot name concatenate attacks the enemy's name for player damage, and then damage. Alright, so it should say player attacks and a goblin for 5 damage. Perfect, and let's actually hit the enemy, because we need to do that. We need to go enemy's max health minus or equals the player's damage, and go from there. Oh, whoop. Enemy reference dot current health is hurt by the player's damage, and then we're going to do a check to see if the enemy is dead. check if enemy dead. If the enemy's reference current health is less than or equal to 0, then they're dead. Tell them how good they are. So, let's put the enemy.name dies. Hooray! Let's go return true. Now, I suppose at this point, you could have items on your... This could be the point where you drop items, you give experience and things like that you want to do. But right now, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to copy these, I suppose you call them 7 lines, pop them there, and we're going to opposite everything. So we see the player name, we're going to put enemy name. Instead, we see enemy name, we're going to put player name, and we see player damage, we're going to put enemy damage. And this part is going to be player, level player, I should be saying. Now, the biggest tricky part here is I don't have a current health for the player, so I'm just going to take it away from their max health. That's a bad thing for me to do. So, the player's health minus the enemy damage. Okay. And then let's go if the level player dot max health is less than or equal to, you could put level player dies, and we return false. So before we do that, let's give them a second to see that they've died. Put a read line there, return false because they died, and then we go, before we return false, I'm an idiot, we go fighting equals false. So that'll stop the loop. Then we return, and then realistically, if we meet this point again, the enemy's not dead and the player's not dead. So we need to quickly message them how much health each of them have. So let's steal these two. Oh, I should change this as well. Sorry, everyone. Can you quickly change enemy reference current health? That's better. Copy this bad boy, or copy these 2 bad boys, and let's quickly put an empty line and these 2 here. And that's going to tell them how much health they have left. We'll put a read line in because that'll give them a second to sort of absorb what's happened in that entire turn. And then finally, because it's whinging, let's put in a return false. We should never really get to this point, but it's a good idea just to put that there. Wow, I'm rushing this. I'm sorry, everybody. Instead of return false, running is false. That's going to shut down the game. Because once the player has died, we turn off the fighting, we turn off the game, and we should get to this point here, which is going to exit the sub and then end the whole thing for us. Now that is one of the biggest things that we've done. If you need to pause the video and write all of that down, because that's huge, and sorry about all the little changes and things like that, there was a few things I had to do on the fly there. We're going to attack, after that, we're going to attack the very last function. So if you're ready, come down to your menu with me. And let's add in our last command, which is command upper inventory. There. So if the command equals inventory or it equals, I'm just going to say items. That might be a nice way to do it. Let's quickly go display inventory. So we'll write a function called that. Get rid of those brackets. And then refresh equals false. All right. Let's come right up the top again. I'm sorry to rush you. So display inventory. This one's quite easy. It's just a few right lines, but we're just going to go through each item the player has, tell them what they have. So check if the player has items first. If level player items count is greater than 0, then display it. So console right line, empty one, and then we go items, current items in inventory, and let's put a little separator there above the title. All right, print each item. So this is going to be us looping through the player, getting the information from the level. So for each item as item reference in the player items, let's right line each one. So console right line, and a couple of tabs, because I always do it, and let's say how many accounts by level, get item, in the brackets let's put item.name. That's going to print the item's count, and then the name of the item that they've got, and that's it. Let's put an else, because this else is if they have no items. So that's right line, you have no items in your inventory. Alright. That's display inventory done. We actually have one more command to go. Pause the video if you need that, guy. Or otherwise, come down to the game screen with me. And let's add in quit. So if the command upper equals quit, then let's tell them they're lame. Let's just go right line. Fine. Bye then. And then finally, do a read line. And to exit the game, you go running equals false. Oh, wow. That was a pretty big effort. That's about 280 lines of code within this entire video. I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. But before I go, this is the code done. If you do get stuck or there's something incorrect or I went too quickly, you know the source code's always down the bottom, and that's the final source code. But before I go, I'm going to quickly show you what I'm talking about when I say command line arguments. So right now when actually, load level. We're going to fix this bad boy. What I'm going to do, I'm going to be really cheap and nasty. I'm going to copy this. Copy load level. I'm going to put him inside the editor. And the reason I'll put that inside the editor is because I want LVL to come from the level at the top. And what I can do is actually get rid of those, go edit, level, let's go file name equals files index. Alright, I hope that makes sense. We're loading the level, backing up the file name, and then editing it. Alright, sorry about that. I completely forgot about that in the last video. The load level function is incredibly important. But anyway, so if I start my game now, it should jump straight into his Texas game. You got 2 levels, so let's go level 0. I'm currently standing in nothing. Look at something. I can't see something. Fight! There are no enemies. North, you cannot move. South, south, south. I've got a very blank level. Grit. And the game works pretty well good. So, that currently starts in game mode. What if I want to start in editor mode? So, what I do there is you come to the Solution Explorer, go to my project, type in editor for the command line argument, and all of a sudden we're in the editor. So how does that work when you're not in Visual Studio? You've actually made your game, it's good to go. Let's go off to where I've saved my project. This is really buried, I'm sorry. Alright, so here is where my game would be saved. So this is my text-based game. If I just start him regularly, it's going to start in the game mode, as you can see. However, if I create a shortcut for this guy, I can specify a command line argument. So I'm going to right-click, create a shortcut, and I'm going to go to the properties of the shortcut, not the game. And where it says target over here on the end, I'm going to put editor. And as you can see, it starts in the editor mode. And I can still go to game mode. I can still go into the game. Go and quit. But that is how you would start the game. And that's how a lot of things, like Unreal Engine actually does that. If you type in editor on the end, I know the old Half-Life used to do similar things. That's a very common way of putting the command line editor in there. I hope you enjoyed this video series, everybody. I hope you learned something. If you have any comments, suggestions, put them down below. Please like and subscribe. I really, really would appreciate it. And that's it for the moment. I'm Nick Dingle. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you later on. Bye.